C'est bon.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Merci de nous avoir rejoints pour ce nouveau débat en ligne consacré au film Orkesterin, edessa, devant l'orchestre en français, de la cinéaste finlandaise Anna-Karin Grönroos. Anna-Karin Grönroos est scénariste, réalisatrice de documentaires. Son premier film, Ecopolis China, a été sélectionné à l'IDFA en 2013. Parallèlement à la réalisation de documentaires indépendants, elle prépare un master en cinéma documentaire au département de cinéma-télévision et scénographie de l'école de cinéma d'Helsinki. Alors, pour les spectateurs qui veulent poser des questions, soit vous appuyez sur l'icône de la petite main bleue en bas de votre écran ou en rédigeant votre question en allant sur l'icône Q&R en bas aussi de votre écran. Elles seront posées par Barberine et moi-même. Le débat avec Anna-Karin Grönroos est animé par Lucille Lisack, qui est enseignante en anthropologie à l'Université de Nanterre. La traduction va être assurée par Moni Proctor. Un grand merci à vous deux d'avoir accepté notre invitation et sans plus tarder, je vous cède la parole. À vous, Lucille.
Merci, merci Anna-Karin pour ce très beau film que vous nous donnez à voir. Merci au comité du film ethnographique de m'avoir invité, de me donner la chance de discuter avec vous. Alors Anna-Karin, vous avez fait avant ce film devant l'orchestre d'autres documentaires sur des sujets qui semblent des sujets d'actualité brûlants, des lettres de migrants d'Afghanistan, des projets de ville écologique en Chine. Pourquoi vous intéressez ensuite à la direction d'orchestre? So I will translate into English. Anna-Karin, you made some films before about very actual themes, letters from migrants' letters, ecological cities in China. Why did you come to this topic of conducting orchestras now?
Well, yeah, it started out actually with a question from my producer that she had figured out that we have this famous school of conducting in Helsinki that everybody in Finland knows about, and also the classical scene outside of Finland knows about it, but very few people apart from that. And nobody has ever made a documentary about this film or about this school. So actually the idea came from the producer, and since we had worked very well earlier, I felt that, okay, this is interesting. This is something I know nothing about. I'm completely ignorant when it comes to conducting classical music. So this is a chance for me to learn something and really study as an anthropologist, more or less, making notes, going there first for my research and just observing and being like an alien, completely like, what is this? That's how it started.
Okay. And how did you enter? Sorry.
La traduire. Ouais, excusez-moi. Donc, la proposition a été faite par le producteur de la réalisatrice. Et effectivement, cette école d'Helsinki est connue sur le sol local, mais très peu à l'international. Et elle s'est dit que ce serait un très bon sujet, comme elle n'y connaissait pas grand-chose non plus, était un peu ignorante à ce sujet, de faire son propre travail en tant qu'anthropologue et de découvrir ce domaine-là.
And how did you enter this field of classical music? How did you need to prepare yourself? How was it concretely? Comment est-ce que vous êtes entré dans ce domaine de la musique classique? Est-ce que vous y êtes préparé d'une manière ou d'une autre? Et comment cela s'est-il passé concrètement?
Yeah, well, I did a little bit of reading, but actually I wanted to sort of use my ignorance here, and I went just because I was very sure that sort of the essence of this film is actually about human communication and leadership. How can you become a leader, and how does individuals inspire others? So I didn't really want to know too much about the technical side of it, which is very interesting in itself, but it's another film if it would have been more technical. So this is basically about human communication. I went there, and I remember that one of the first notes that I made during my research evenings there with the class was that, okay, they actually make jokes here, and I don't really get the pun, but I see that they have very good sense of humor here, and it's very human, that this perspective that some people have, that classical music is a bit more like there's much more, or the pressure and the prestige is somehow killing the human side of it, that at least in the school it's not true, that it's very like any art school, really. So I could relate to my days in film school, actually. So that was one of the first observations.
Donc oui, elle avait entrepris quelques lectures avant d'aller à l'école, mais voulait un peu rester dans son état d'ignorance pour voilà, découvrir à sa façon. Et pour elle, le film s'intéresse beaucoup plus à la communication humaine et comment une personne dirige, plutôt que voilà, sa volonté n'était pas forcément de montrer la technique, puisque pour elle, ça serait un autre documentaire à part entière. Et voilà, elle avait partagé le fait que l'une de ses premières notes était que voilà, on pouvait faire des blagues même dans ce domaine qu'elle ne comprenait pas forcément, mais qu'il y avait tout de même de l'humour, et ça lui rappelait un peu sa propre expérience dans son école de cinéma. Donc ça pouvait être comme n'importe quelle école d'art.
So you speak about human communication, and this is very important in your film. But looking at this film, I was wondering how you managed to film the invisible, because conductors work a lot just reading the scores and hearing that in their head. And then they have to make it understand to musicians. So a lot of things are, you're not able to see that, how to show that in a film. Donc ma question concerne la manière dont on peut filmer l'invisible, puisque les chefs d'orchestre travaillent à la table, lisent les partitions, les entendent en oreille interne, et il faut ensuite faire passer tout ça aux musiciens, et il y a beaucoup de choses qui sont très difficiles à percevoir. Donc, comment ça se passe pour montrer ça dans un film?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I had, in the beginning of the filming, I made two very important decisions. One was that we really need to have a good idea of how to record the film, like, I mean, the sound. That this is a film where the three-dimensional sound is sort of a very big part of the narrative, like how they rehearse this part of a song, and then at some point it just clicks and the whole orchestra plays together, and you can actually technically also hear it, that this would be very important. So I had the chance to work with a really good sound engineer on set. And the other thing, very practical thing, was that I realized that the discussions between the teachers and the students, and also students among themselves, in like just before or after practicing with an orchestra, that this is actually when they verbalize their dilemmas, and these discussions for a layman like me, they sort of open up what they are really struggling with, and then it was important also for me to sort of find students for the film with not everybody has the same dilemma sort of, and there's not many students. They have maybe, I think, 10 to 12 depending on which year, so they accept basically 2 students per year, and then I interviewed all of them who were studying that in that year when I started making the film, and chose also very carefully. It took me a very long time to figure out who should I follow really for these years. It's for 3 years, right? So it's very good, a very important decision. And well, to go back to your question, how to portray the invisible, I really was longing for sort of the, like, I think it's a very technical thing, like you have a good sound and very good lenses and cameras, so that you can really feel and see what they are doing on a very like intimate, that you come very close, and also that I'm there with that I can record some of the discussions when they open up what they are really thinking about.
Donc, 2 décisions étaient très, très importantes dans la fabrication du film pour elle. La première étant de savoir comment tourner et comment enregistrer, retranscrire au mieux le son. Et pour ça, elle a collaboré avec un bon ingénieur son, et ça lui tenait à cœur vraiment de retranscrire au mieux la beauté des images et du son. Et ensuite, un autre élément qui lui tenait à cœur était de montrer les discussions entre élèves et professeurs, les échanges qui révélaient les dilemmes internes et propres à chaque élève. Et donc ça lui tenait beaucoup à cœur aussi. Et elle ajoute également le fait d'avoir pris beaucoup de temps pour suivre et choisir ses élèves. Et donc voilà, pour elle, il était très important d'avoir un équipement de bonne qualité et de pouvoir retranscrire au mieux.
Thank you. And you spoke about the choice of the students you will be following. What were your criteria? Was it important to have a woman? Was it important to have foreigners? Why did you choose these 3 students? Donc, quels ont été les critères de choix pour choisir les 3 étudiants? Était-il important de suivre une jeune femme? Était-il important de suivre des étudiants étrangers? Et comment s'est fait ce choix?
Right, yeah, I actually, at some point I was considering, like, maybe I could make an ensemble film, more like with all the 10 to 12 students, and sort of not be very not to come so close with the individual, more about the group. But the more I was thinking about it, I felt that we, by choosing these 3 that I have in the film, which is Emilia from Finland, James from France, and Ihan from Taiwan, that they are sort of representing the whole group, that they, in a way, can talk about diverse aspects of sort of the question of how to find your voice as an artist, as a musician, as a leader, that they sort of can, and I think that it was really good that I could in the group find one who is a woman and one who is from farther away, in this case then Ihan, who is from Taiwan, And then there were several students from France at the time, well, anyway, so I thought that this trio they are sort of as a group, they are sort of complementing each other in a good way to sort of ponder on these questions, the theme of what does a conductor really do.
Alors, Anna-Karin explique au départ que son intention était tout d'abord de retranscrire le groupe, mais elle s'est rendue compte que les trois personnages qu'on suit dans le film, Emilia, Ihan et James, qui étaient de provenance culturelle différente, représentaient le groupe à eux tout seuls et soulevaient, toutes les questions, tous les enjeux qui pouvaient être soulevés, qui pouvaient émaner de telles situations.
You said not everybody has the same dilemma among the students, and I was particularly attentive to the fact that Emilia says sometimes you begin to think too much and then you don't feel self-confident enough in front of the orchestra. Is that more a problem of, did you have the impression that it's more a problem of women in front of an orchestra? And did the condition of women conductors, was this question often discussed among students? Was it an important topic, or was it just normal and not at all discussed that there was women among the students? Je vais essayer de traduire ma question. Donc, Anna-Karin disait que tout le monde n'a pas toujours les mêmes dilemmes, et j'ai relevé le fait que Emilia, à un moment, dit parfois on commence à trop réfléchir et ensuite on n'a plus la confiance dont on a besoin en face de l'orchestre. Je me demandais si c'était un hasard, pardon, si c'est justement une femme qui se pose ce genre de questions, si la question de la confiance face à l'orchestre se posait différemment pour les femmes et pour les hommes, et si le fait que de jeunes femmes choisissent cette profession était un sujet de discussion, si la condition des femmes chefs d'orchestre était un sujet de discussion dans cette école de direction.
Yeah, well, this is actually the fact that there is one of the main characters in the film is a woman. It's very, I mean, there's many sides to it. Emilia, who is this woman in the film, she was also struggling a bit, like, okay, am I in the film because I'm a woman, or why? But I think that that this is something that's changing very rapidly now in the field of classical music. It's been going on in, I mean, 100 years ago, all the orchestras even were mainly male musicians, and now it's changed that it's pretty even in the orchestras in like genders. And now if you look at schools in conducting, that they at least from what I have seen, that the percentages of women students are rising very much, and it's more or less going towards the 50-50 situation. So this is for the new generations of musicians, it will not be a big thing with female conductors anymore. And I think this question of confidence, from what I've seen, that it's everybody are struggling with confidence. I think it's in Emilia's case, she was very young when she started studying, 21, and now she's 24, turning 25 next month. So she's still quite young, but this is more for her. I think for her it's an age thing, that when you are 21 or 22, that conducting a big symphony orchestra, it's something you need to just get used to be in that position. And this is another aspect of the film that you rarely see conductors so young, that usually they are in their late 50s, and this is something I think it's an important image to see, to show to the world also young conductors, so that the new generation coming.
Donc sur la question des femmes, l'un des personnages principaux, Emilia, se demandait elle-même si elle avait sa place dans le film parce qu'elle était une femme, rien qu'à cause de ça. Et pour la réalisatrice, c'est un débat qui commence où on peut enfin constater quelques évolutions et des changements. Par exemple, dans les écoles, les pourcentages de femmes augmentent. En ce qui concerne les chefs d'orchestre et même pour les musiciens. Après, pour ce qui est de la confiance en soi, elle trouve que tout le monde fait face à des problèmes de confiance en soi et qui pourrait... Emilia, on le perçoit dans le film qu'elle a elle se sent un peu déboussolée et déstabilisée, mais il pourrait que ce soit aussi à cause de son âge, puisque la réalisatrice pointe également le fait que on a peu tendance à voir des chefs d'orchestre aussi jeunes face à un orchestre, le diriger de la sorte. Et donc, c'est aussi une image qui fait changer notre perception des choses, nos biais, on va dire.
Merci pour l'introduction. I'm not a filmmaker, so maybe it's the question of somebody who doesn't know anything about cinema. But looking at the film, I remarked I noticed the importance of space and volume in this strange building. You give us the opportunity to see it from the outside, from the inside. And at the same time, after having seen the film, I thought, well, it's nearly a black and white film. There are only few colors. As a filmmaker, how did you work with this color or absence of color, and how did you work with these volumes and space?
Oh, I really...
Oh, pardon, j'ai pas traduit la question. I didn't translate the question, sorry, I forgot. C'est une question à propos des volumes, des espaces qu'on voit dans le film, et aussi à propos de cet environnement qui est presque en noir et blanc. Voilà.
Well, yeah, it's true that it's monochromatic, really, the building, and I love this idea that this film has one strong location. Like 90% of the film is taking place in this one black box, and also that it's like very modern architecture. Where they are playing these 300-year-old music, this sort of clash between like the modern world and the ancient culture, or not ancient but very old culture. So I'm thinking a lot about architecture in general in my films, and here in this building. It's quite, actually the building is quite cold on the outside, that there's like very like reflecting glass surfaces, but then when you are inside it becomes quite cozy, actually, at least if you are there for years every day, and I think that this what's important with the building is also that it's combining like it's the main concert venue of our city, and the school is there, the Sibelius Academy, and also like that both our big orchestras sort of live in this house. that this is sort of like there is no distinctions, or not very clear distinctions between sort of where does the school start and the sort of real life professional world. Where's the limit, or the border between those? And I think that the big volumes that they are working with, like that is very, it's for also as an audio experience. This house is interesting, that the sound of this house is very like you can like there's so much space that you can actually hear how music sounds. It's not just small boxes for practicing, but real. And it's important that they have the chance to practice in big spaces with big orchestras, because that's what their job is going to be. Well, more or less, I don't know if I completely answered your question. I would love to continue over a glass of wine one day. Maybe we can do that. It's a long discussion.
Donc, Anna-Karin reconnaît que le bâtiment paraisse monochrome et assez froid de l'extérieur, mais que en y entrant, c'est une atmosphère assez chaleureuse. Et elle reconnaît aussi une autre position, le fait que ce soit une architecture moderne, mais dans lequel est jouée de la musique classique, donc qu'il y ait un conflit temporel. Elle trouve ça assez intéressant. Et il y a aussi, elle soulignait aussi le fait qu'il s'agit également de la salle de concert majeure de Helsinki, donc deux grands orchestres cohabitent dans cet espace et on distingue mal la frontière avec la vie professionnelle. Et pour terminer, elle voulait également insister sur la sonorisation et le fait qu'il soit important de jouer dans de si grands espaces, d'avoir un si grand espace pour entendre aussi bien les musiques jouées.
Est-ce qu'il est temps de donner la parole aux questions des personnes qui nous écoutent, ou est-ce que je continue?
Si tu as une autre question, Lucille, vas-y, puis après on passera la parole à toi.
Très bien, oui, j'ai toujours d'autres questions.
Formidable.
It'll be my last question, and it's maybe a double question. Because your title is in front of the orchestra. So did you speak with the musicians sometime to know how they feel in front of the conductor? And if we turn around, what about the audience? Did the conductor, because the conductor is the only musician who turns his back to the audience, how do they imagine the audience behind them? Does it play a role? Do they discuss about how they feel the audience beside them? Was it something that you heard about? Donc, une question double. Qu'en est-il des musiciens qui, eux, sont en face du chef, et avez-vous discuté avec les musiciens pour faire ce film? Et l'autre aspect de la question, que se passe-t-il dans le dos du chef? Et qu'en est-il de la manière dont les jeunes conducteurs se représentent le public auquel ils tournent le dos? Une position paradoxale du seul musicien qui tourne le dos au public.
Well, that's super relevant also. Like, how can you, how the conductors perceive the audience? I'm as mentioned, I'm not a big expert even still, but I found it very interesting that some of the conductors I talked with during these years, that they explain the feeling of conducting more like a transmission of energy also, that it's like also, well, that is something that Emilia in the end of the film points out also, that you sort of, that it's good to be a bit sort of nervous also in front before the concert, that then you are very alert and you can give energy that it's needed. And but someone also was saying that you sort of feel the energy from the audience, so it goes in all directions. And I really love to imagine like what it must feel like to be a conductor, that you are receiving and giving energy and while making wonderful music, and I think this is like for any artist, it's this idea of getting and paying forward energy is really, I think, something that many artists can relate to it. So it's quite universal, but with conductors, of course, it's so concrete in that moment, in that small nanosecond, what you do, which is so like so unique for their profession. So I guess also with time that many conductors try and get more like more and more like feel at home on the stage, and probably they are conducting in their sleep quite a lot. I would love to do that myself.
Donc Anna-Karin voulait tout d'abord parler de la transmission d'énergie, le fait que oui, effectivement, le chef d'orchestre, il est à la fois avec l'orchestre, mais aussi, même s'il est dos à eux avec le public. Et elle voulait également revenir sur le fait que Emilia dit avoir un peu le trac, mais que tout de même, il est sain d'en avoir un minimum pour être alerte et savoir vraiment prévoir son travail à l'avance. Et il y avait cette question de va-et-vient d'énergie, à la fois d'en recevoir et d'en transmettre. Et voilà, donc elle est assez... Elle est assez admirative du travail du chef d'orchestre, de pouvoir créer tant de choses dans un temps tout de même si éphémère, et de pouvoir vraiment être si animé et expressif.
Bien, mais on va peut-être prendre des questions de la part du public. Alors, vous levez la petite main bleue et puis on vous donnera la parole. Barberine, est-ce qu'il y a des questions d'arrivée?
Regarde, non, je pense que tu n'en vois pas non plus.
Ah non.
Ah si, il y avait... Non.
Ah, il y a Véronique Prost qui veut... Alors, je clique sur pour converser. Véronique, vous pouvez prendre la parole.
Est-ce que tu veux être à l'image?
Pas forcément.
Pas forcément. Bon, alors...
Mais bon.
Bon, vas-y.
En tout cas, je voulais vous dire que j'ai vraiment beaucoup aimé votre film et que je l'ai trouvé extrêmement intéressant. C'était la première fois qu'il m'est donné à voir un tel enseignement. La question que je me pose, c'est par rapport à l'étudiant chinois. En Asie, en fait, dans l'éducation, on apprend à ne pas montrer ses sentiments sur son visage ou à pas communiquer ses émotions. Or, dans l'apprentissage de chef d'orchestre, on voit combien il est important de regarder et d'exprimer aux musiciens. En fait, c'est comme une sorte de langage non parlé. Et est-ce que vous avez... Je pense que pour lui, ça doit être beaucoup plus difficile que pour les autres. Et est-ce que vous avez recueilli d'autres confidences de sa part sur sa difficulté liée à sa culture?
Est-ce que je traduis la question? Ouais. So first of all, Veronique she really enjoyed your film, and it made her discover a profession that is quite unknown. And she wanted to talk about the Chinese student in particular, Yihan Fu, and that in the Asian culture, it's often, we're told to really keep in your emotions, to not really be expressive, to remain stoic, and she felt that it was quite difficult for him to probably deal with his cultural upbringing, but also him wanting to be a conductor, being forced to let himself go in his emotions. So do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, very good question. And I think that this is, well, again, I'm not a specialist on Asian facial expressions or such, but this is really good question, because in the end, it's clear that this cultural background is one of the challenges for Ihan Fu, but it's also a possibility for him to sort of become because he has to, or anybody who becomes a conductor needs to find his or her own way, and it would be kind of horrible if he would sort of forget his background. He has to be a conductor from Taiwan. He cannot become someone else. So how to do it? And I think he is finding his own way, which is a more kind of like the less, or how do you say, less expressive way, but he is in the language of music. He is definitely connecting with musicians, that he can make himself heard through the orchestra. So even though he's not using his face so much, well, he has to, of course, use a little bit of facial expression as well, but still not without forgetting his persona, which is actually what his most important asset as a professional conductor, of course, is his persona, and how he, in his unique way, can inspire others. And one interesting thing that came up during the filming was also that Ihan is he's wearing his very he's very short-sighted also. So sometimes he doesn't really see the last line of the orchestra, and he's sometimes a bit curious to see why or hear sort of what they are feeling, because he cannot really himself see their expressions. So that's another thing also with conducting, like how much can you see with your eyes, and how much can you hear with your ears, and how much can you just sense with your other senses of what people are feeling at this moment. So sometimes you have to find your own way of doing this.
Tout d'abord, elle trouve que c'est une très bonne question, et que voilà, pour elle, il s'agit d'une possibilité de s'ouvrir, et elle pense qu'il ne devrait pas renier non plus ses origines, mais de trouver un compromis et d'avoir sa propre voix, puisque quoi qu'il en soit, il est en lien avec le langage musical. C'est pas comme si c'était un mauvais étudiant, mais et elle ajoutait également qu'il avait une mauvaise vue qui lui empêchait de percevoir les expressions au fond de l'orchestre. Donc, il y a aussi cette question de la perception, ce qu'on peut sentir autour de soi, et comment tout de même être en lien avec les autres malgré ces défauts-là.
Oui, y a-t-il d'autres questions?
Alors, je vais vous lire une question de Monique. Do the conductors choose the pieces they work on, or do they have to follow a curriculum?
And is this question in regards to like professional conductors? I guess, yeah. I guess the question is about professional
Yeah.
Because in the school they follow, they do all the Beethovens and they do all the sort of 101. But this is then probably a question about the professional part.
In school, at school, during their studies, maybe.
You think? Yeah, but
I don't know, Monique.
Yeah.
Yes. How did you? No, it's another question. No specification for this one.
Well, yeah, but I can maybe shortly just regarding both, that in the school that they don't have much opportunity to choose themselves, except for if they have sort of a middle, like they do first like this middle exam halfway through the studies, then they of course plan their sort of program for the concert themselves. But in the school in general, they just try different styles and composers and get used to the variety. And I think for professional or conductors, if you are then working with an orchestra, so that you are like every week or at least several weeks per year, then you can plan together with the orchestra what you would like to do with this orchestra. And sometimes you get just hired for one specific concert, and probably then the orchestra who is inviting you already knows which piece they would like to do with you, I guess, quite many times. But, yeah.
Donc, alors, s'il s'agit si les questions portent sur les étudiants, et elle dit qu'il y a un examen de mi-semestre où, oui, forcément, au cours de leurs études, ils s'adaptent à tous les différents styles et les compositeurs. Et dans le monde professionnel, oui, ils planifient tout de même quelques semaines à l'avance ce qu'ils souhaitent jouer le jour J. Mais bon, voilà.
Je vais poser la question de Madoka. C'est une question sur la scène où l'étudiant français se bat pour trouver sa nouvelle façon, mais le professeur ne l'apprécie pas. Comment avez-vous trouvé votre position adéquate pour défendre son combat sans critiquer le professeur?
So the question is about the French student, James, and she would like to know more about the conflict between his method of, working and the teacher's one, because he talks about it during the film, and would like to know how you positioned yourself in a way to defend the student, but without criticizing the work of the teacher.
Yeah, well, for me as a filmmaker, this is sort of this conflict in the school is I mean it's for the film it's a big gift, because it says so much about the profession of conducting, that you can perceive it in so many different ways, and there's no right and wrong. It's just to find your way, like basically if James saying that clarity cannot be the number one point of having a conductor, like that there must be more to it, and the professor saying that clarity is the first step, and then you can build upon that. Then it's like basically it's not black and white, it's just a different point of view. And I think that they are how they express their opinions, and that they actually sort of, well, of course they become quite agitated, like discussing this, that this says so much about also how important this question is, like what is really the point of having a conductor, and for me it's clear that there is I don't need to take sides, but it's just a conflict that's interesting me, that they are so well somehow pointing out this question, also very emotionally at this some of the meetings and the rehearsals that they sort of, both of them were kind of leaving the room, slamming the door a bit. Like, so I'm very actually I'm very grateful that they were not sort of trying to hide this conflict from me, but just showing that, okay, I think like this and I think like that, and this is how it is, that we can't agree on this point. So that's good.
Donc Anna-Karin dit que oui, il n'y a pas de bonne ou de mauvaise réponse à ce sujet, c'est une question d'opinion et ça retranscrit vraiment le fait que cette profession soit nuancée, que ce soit un terrain gris, voilà. Et que ça en dit long aussi sur la profession. Et que oui, bon, elle n'avait pas de parti à prendre sur ce sujet-là, mais il était important pour elle de retranscrire ce conflit pour montrer en quoi ces aspects qui nous paraissent anodins peuvent vraiment tenir à cœur les professionnels.
One more question from Monique. How did you select the pieces that appear in the film? Did you discuss the choice with the artists? Comment avez-vous choisi les morceaux qui sont dans le film et avez-vous discuté de ce choix avec les artistes?
And this is mean the orchestral pieces, which ones we are. Well, let me think back now. How did these? Actually, I noticed that well, no matter which piece they were rehearsing, that what made it interesting for the film was that if there was sort of a moment of some sort of like also how the teacher, what sort of feedback they get. So it was more based on which pieces would be extra difficult or have something very challenging technically or for the stage of each individual. And sometimes I had to later check like exactly which piece was it from which composer. I actually at the editing phase of the film I wasn't conscious about which pieces, but I noticed that they do try to cover a wide range of music. So that's something I think is very lovely in the film, that they do so much different type of music.
Donc Anna-Karin voulait dire que dans cette école, ils étudiaient une grande variété de morceaux et que des morceaux qu'elle ne connaissait pas forcément, puisqu'à posteriori, après le tournage, elle a dû faire des étapes de recherche pour retrouver les morceaux joués. Et voilà, c'était pour... elle voulait montrer comment certains morceaux étaient plus compliqués que d'autres à jouer.
On va peut-être prendre une dernière question ou...
On va prendre la dernière question qui est aussi un long commentaire. It's in English, maybe Molly you can read it, and it will be the last question.
Shall I read everything that's above the question, or just simply the question?
Or maybe you read the thanks and everything, because it's nice.
Yeah. So this is one of the spectators. Thank you very much for this magnificent film and for having succeeded in making us understand, in particular, the increase in the skills of the students, their confidence, their doubts, and their discoveries of human resources. The relationship with their teacher is superb. For example, the Chinese student becomes the second hearing of his teacher. during the rehearsals and gives him another feedback thanks to his location and his sensitivity. To paraphrase one of the teachers, Anna-Karin, what lock have you found in yourself to show so much clarity in directing this film?
Will you translate it to French, the question?
Yeah, ouais. Donc, oui, je vais traduire comme autonome. Donc, la personne voulait savoir comment Anna-Karin avait fait pour représenter tant de clarité dans sa réalisation.
Et quel verrou elle-même a...
J'ai pas très bien compris le moment du verrou, mais si ça...
Je pense que c'est relié au film.
Oui, c'est d'une citation, oui.
Oui, d'un verrou qu'on débloque à un moment pour arriver à créer quelque chose.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good question about opening emotional locks. I thank you for the feedback. It's really heartwarming to hear that this is sort of that the film is giving something, and I think that well, for me, these years spent there in the music academy, the Sibelius Academy, made me think also that a director is sort of I'm sort of the leader of my band. It's very small, my band. It's just a few people, but that this opportunity to work with others is sort of the basis of my work as well. And I think the clarity in this film comes very much also from the editor of the film. Like this film, this type of film, the cinema verite genre, that you have hundreds of hours of footage, and how do you start to build a story from there? It's really the magic is in the editing. Definitely. So Okku Nuutilainen, who edited the film, really did an amazing job at really finding sort of how to structure this, that you sort of can give the viewer of the film a chance to empathize with the students and live their experience just for a brief moment. Thank you.
Donc oui, elle-même se compare au chef d'orchestre de sa propre équipe de tournage. Et pour ce qui est de la... Et elle remercie forcément les commentaires positifs sur son film. Et pour elle, la clarité se fait dans le montage, et c'est ce qui donne une structure au film et permet d'avoir un fil conducteur tout au long du film.
Bien, eh bien, Lucille, une remarque, un mot, une question peut-être avant de conclure?
Il reste une question d'Antoine.
Une question d'Antoine.
Alors, je la lis si on a le temps. La fin saisissante du film nous fait assister à l'aboutissement de l'un des 3 élèves. Qu'en est-il des 2 autres et de leur avenir?
So someone wanted to know when you show at the end Emilia's success in replacing a big conductor, and they wanted to know what happened to the 2 other students.
Well, yeah, I think it comes in the film. Actually, Ihan is because he decides to stay in Finland, and even though it would be maybe more easier for him to work as a conductor in his home country, but he felt that that living in Finland is really for him. That the quietness of people and the sort of well, we don't have much expressions either. We Finns, we're pretty bland in the face, so he feels very much at home here, I think he's approaching his final concert from the school, and it's probably going to be live streamed somewhere. I'm pretty sure in these days that it's going to be available online for the whole world, and so he's soon to be ready with his education. And James has founded his own orchestra in Helsinki, so he is unstoppable. You will hear from him, I'm sure. He is working with a big orchestra in Helsinki now that is actually his own making the orchestra, and they, well, now they had to make, of course, have a very first very limited audience and then cancel some of the concerts, but I'm sure that he's full of plans of how to conquer the world, and yeah, at the moment I think actually this year 2020, the wonderful year of 2020, Emila is in with the French Radio Symphonic Orchestra. She's working as assistant there in Paris, actually. So she's in France most of this year. Has been not many. Of course, all of her plans became a bit different as well. And yeah, as soon as the world goes back to normal, I'm sure we'll hear more from all three of them.
Donc, pour résumer très rapidement, Iran est resté en Finlande, car il s'y sent bien, il aime beaucoup la tranquillité là-bas. James a fondé son propre orchestre à Helsinki, et Emilia travaille en France voilà, pour l'orchestre de Radio France, je crois.
Oui, effectivement, Molly, c'est bien ça. Et d'ailleurs, elle est l'assistante l'un des grands chefs finlandais, Mikko Frank, qui est le chef en titre de l'Orchestre national de France, rattaché à Radio France. Donc, l'école finlandaise continue à essaimer les chefs à travers le monde. Hein, il y en a eu un grand, qui est toujours là, qui est Sapekka Salonen, qui a aussi beaucoup dirigé en France. Voilà, merci beaucoup à Anna-Karin de nous avoir rejoints depuis Helsinki, Lucille depuis l'Université de Nanterre, Molly pour toutes les traductions, et puis je crois que nous allons nous retrouver d'ici une demi-heure pour le dernier débat de ce jour. Merci à vous toutes.
Merci à vous.
Night. Thank you.
Merci, au revoir.